All right, so today we've got a story for you. It's about a young man whose only real wealth, the only thing he really had, was his character. And we're going to see how that character gets put to the ultimate test. It's a classic tale of virtue, betrayal, and, in the end, triumph.
And this right here, this simple but incredibly powerful piece of advice from a mother to her son, this is basically the moral compass for the entire story. It's the one principle that's going to guide every single decision, every hardship he's about to face.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine this. We meet our main character, Gaurav, and his mother, Shanti Devi. They live in this tiny, weathered house, right on the edge of a village. And poverty isn't just a word here, it's a constant. You can almost feel it in the air. So on one hand, they have next to nothing, materially speaking. Their poverty is just immense. But on the other hand, all of that is completely overshadowed by this incredible, unwavering commitment to honesty. And look, this wasn't just some nice idea for them. It was the absolute foundation of their existence, a principle they stuck to no matter how tough things got.
Now Gaurav, he gets it. He knows that just sitting around waiting isn't going to change anything. So he decides to take action. He sets his sights on the wealthiest man in the entire village, this guy named Seth Rameshwar, just hoping, he can find an opportunity that matches how hard he's willing to work.
So Gaurav makes his way to the Seth's place, and it's this grand mansion, right? To him, it must have looked like a small palace. And when he gets there, he's met with a statement that is going to completely define his entire journey from this moment on.
The Seth, he's a guy who's clearly seen his fair share of liars and cheats, but he's immediately impressed by Gaurav's sincerity. He can just tell this kid is straightforward. He sees something different in him, and so he decides, okay, I'll give this kid a shot. He gives him a chance to prove himself, starting right at the bottom, in the grain warehouse.
And get this, Gaurav doesn't just do the job. His diligence, his absolute integrity, it makes him stand out immediately. We're talking just a few weeks and he goes from being the new guy to the most trusted man in the entire warehouse. That's how you make an impression.
But you know how it goes. As Gaurav's star starts to rise, it casts a long shadow. And that shadow falls on someone who, let's just say, prefers to operate in darkness. Yeah, his success was becoming a major problem for someone else. So who's the antagonist here? It's not some random stranger. Nope. It's the Seth's own younger brother, Mohan Lal. Turns out he was secretly stealing from the family business. And Gaurav's meticulous, by-the-book honesty, well, that was a huge threat to his whole operation. So Mohan Lal, he doesn't see Gaurav's integrity as a good thing. To him, it's just a roadblock, a problem to be solved. So he cooks up this cold, calculated plan to get rid of him. And the worst part, he uses Gaurav's own diligence against him to create the perfect frame-up. And just like that, with all the evidence pointing squarely, but falsely, at Gaurav, the Seth is just deeply disappointed. He fires him right there on the spot. All that trust that Gaurav worked so incredibly hard to build, gone, shattered in an instant.
You can just imagine, Gaurav is completely devastated. He hasn't just lost his job. The one thing he valued most, his reputation for being honest, is now completely in question, and he feels totally powerless against this accusation. But back at the warehouse, something starts to bother Seth Rameshwar. There's this nagging inconsistency. The story just doesn't quite add up, and he can't shake this gut feeling that something is seriously wrong. Here's the thing. The Seth realized that with Gaurav gone, the stealing didn't stop. In fact, the losses were increasing, and that made absolutely no sense. Think about it. If Gaurav was the thief, the problem should have been solved, right? But instead, it was getting worse. So this deep suspicion, it kicks off a personal investigation. The Seth himself starts digging through old account books, connecting the dots, and slowly but surely a pattern starts to emerge. And guess where it leads? Straight to his own brother and a former employee who'd been fired for theft years ago. So the Seth confronts this former employee, Muku, with all the evidence and probably the threat of the police. And what happens? The guy cracks. He confesses everything. Right there in front of everybody, he completely exposes Mohan Lal's years and years of scams and the whole plot to frame Gaurav. And this all leads to the climax, a huge, dramatic, public confrontation. With the truth finally out in the open, Mohan Lal is totally disgraced. He's shamed in front of all the workers and banished from the family business for good. Okay, so with the truth finally revealed and justice served, the Seth turns his attention back to the innocent man he had so wrongly accused. It was time to make things right. Seth Rameshwar, he goes to Gaurav and apologizes. I mean, profusely. And to reward his incredible, unwavering integrity, he doesn't just give him his old job back. No way. He promotes him to manager, or munshi, and gives him the highest salary, and more importantly, the highest trust.
And you can hear in the Seth's words this complete 180. It's a total shift from suspicion and accusation to just profound respect and admiration. He doesn't just see Gaurav as an employee anymore. He sees him as a true model of virtue.
And just like that, the story comes full circle. Gaurav goes home not in shame, but completely vindicated. He proves that the lesson his mother taught him at the very beginning was true all along. You see, his honesty, which was the source of all his suffering for a while, has now become the source of his greatest reward.
So if we kind of break down his journey, what do we see? We see that honesty, which is obviously the central theme here, when you combine it with just relentless perseverance, well, that's what ultimately delivers justice. That's what overcomes betrayal.
So, this simple story leaves us with a pretty heavy question to think about, doesn't it? In our world today, a world that's just full of complex pressures and temptations to take shortcuts, what does it really mean for us to walk that path of integrity?